Melbourne in the 1970s. Two men named Tony Farrell and Daryl Davies had an ambitious goal. They wanted to create Australia's first homegrown luxury sports coupe and take on the world's best. The mid-1970s was a time of big dreams in Australia's car scene. Companies were experimenting with unique designs. There was a sense of, why can we not do it ourselves? Tony and Daryl's new company was named Ilinga, an Aboriginal word meaning over the horizon. They chose this name to signify looking beyond the present and into a bold future. And bold it was. Their car, the Ilinga AF2, was intended to compete with famous luxury sports cars like Porsche and Aston Martin, but made right here in Australia. From the start, the Ilinga AF2 project was aiming high. The car was designed to be a high-performance two-door Grand Tourer, basically a fast, comfortable car for long-distance touring, with the engine and handling of a sports car. The body was sleek and modern for its time. A low, wide coupe with pop-up headlights and a sharply angled rear hatch. Unlike many handmade cars, the Ilinga was not fiberglass. Instead, it featured aluminium body panels over a steel chassis, giving it strength but keeping weight reasonable. Under the hood, Tony and Daryl chose a powerful Australian-made V8. They took the 4.4-liter alloy V8 engine from the Leyland P76 sedan, itself a locally produced engine originally from Rover in the UK, and tuned it for more performance. In the AF2, this V8 produced about 220 horsepower, a strong figure for the 1970s. That kind of power could, on paper, push the Ilinga to impressive speeds. They planned for the car to have advanced features and luxury touches to set it apart. When the first Ilinga AF2 prototype was unveiled at the 1975 Melbourne Motor Show, it wowed the crowd. Here was a stylish pale blue coupe with pop-up headlights and a distinctly European aura, yet it was an Aussie creation. Car magazines at the time noted that the AF2 had many luxury features ahead of its time. For example, it came with a digital clock, a novelty in 1975. It had power windows, a high-end air conditioning system, and even a self-seeking AM/FM radio cassette player, which could automatically find radio stations. One particularly clever feature was a delay switch that would automatically turn off the headlights and lock the doors a short time after the driver left the car in case they forgot. These might seem ordinary today, but in the mid-70s they were cutting-edge conveniences mostly seen in top luxury cars. The interior was plush, with leather seats and carpeting, designed for comfort during long drives. The Ilinga AF2 was not meant to be a race car stripped to basics. It was meant to be a car you could drive fast and arrive in style and comfort, perhaps cruising across the outback or down the coast in pure 1970s elegance. Despite the exciting debut, the Ilinga AF2 faced huge challenges. Timing was one of them. The car was developed during the 1973 oil crisis, when fuel prices spiked and suddenly big V8 cars were less appealing. Also, building a car company from scratch is enormously expensive. Tony Farrell and Daryl Davies managed to secure some investors and even got 15 customers to place orders for the AF2 after the motor show launch. But the car was not cheap. It was priced in the luxury range. Some sources say around $30,000 in 1975, which was extremely high then. This high price tag, combined with Australia's lack of a track record in making luxury cars, scared away many potential buyers. Those early orders evaporated as economic conditions worsened and people hesitated to gamble on an unknown brand. Engineering issues also cropped up. The AF2 used a Borg-Warner transmission, and during testing, the gearboxes kept failing under the V8's power. The transmission supplier eventually refused to provide more gearboxes because the project was so low volume. This left the Ilinga team in a tough spot. Money was bleeding away. By the time they halted the project, about $328,000 United States dollars had been spent. That was a fortune in 1975 for a small company. Sadly, the Ilinga company only lasted about a year, from 1974 to 1975, before running out of funds and shutting its doors. In the end, only 2 Ilinga AF2 cars were ever built. Both were prototypes made in the Ilinga workshop in Melbourne. After the company folded, One of these prototypes was donated to the Museum Victoria in Melbourne, where it has been preserved for public display. If you visit the Melbourne Museum today, you can still see the Ilinga AF2 on exhibit, a shiny light blue reminder of a dream that almost made it. Car in the museum still has its original paint and looks like a time capsule from 1975, complete with its Ilinga badging and futuristic interior. The second AF2 did not go to a museum. It was sold off and reportedly used as a daily driven car by the owner of a fast food restaurant for some years. That owner repainted the car green, perhaps to have a unique color. Eventually, as the car aged, it disappeared from public view and its whereabouts became a bit of a mystery. For decades, enthusiasts wondered what happened to the lost Ilinga AF2. In recent years, there has been a renewed interest in the Ilinga story. The company Davies Craig, co-founded by Daryl Davies, yes, the same Daryl from Ilinga, still exists making automotive parts. They even started a public search for the missing second AF2 car, hoping to locate and perhaps restore it. So far, that car has not been revealed to the public, but rumors occasionally pop up of a barn find or a restoration in progress. The Ilinga AF2 has gained almost a cult status among Australian car fans, not for any racing victory or sales success, but because it represents a bold attempt to do something extraordinary. It was Australia reaching for the stars in car design and saying we can create a world-class vehicle here. The Ilinga AF2 remains a fascinating what could have been in Australian automotive history. A rare machine where one of the two in existence is parked safely in a museum and the other waits somewhere over the horizon for its story to continue. Three young friends in Sydney had a problem in the late 1950s. Sam Johnson, Geoff Williams, and Grant Furzer loved fast sports cars, but fancy European machines cost a fortune in Australia. So they did what any clever Aussie would do. They built their own. In 1959, these three friends started JWF Fiberglass Industries in a backyard shed. One was an engineer. One was a designer. One was an expert in a new material called fiberglass. Their plan was simple but brilliant. Take an ordinary car, strip off the old body, and replace it with a sleek, sporty shell they designed themselves. Anyone could have a car that looked like a Ferrari or Alfa Romeo for a fraction of the price. The Milano was their first creation. They named it after Milan, the Italian city famous for sports cars. It gave their Australian project an exotic flair. The earliest version, called the Milano 750, was an open-top roadster body that fit on tiny car frames like the Austin 7. Imagine turning a tiny old car into a bright red racing machine. That is what the Milano offered. Car enthusiasts across Australia loved it. Soon JWF was selling fiberglass body kits to fit many different car chassis. They made about 8 different versions of the Milano body. Builders put Milano bodies on whatever they had. Some used tiny 4-cylinder engines. Others fitted powerful 6-cylinder Holden engines, the same ones used in local Holden sedans. With a lightweight body and a stronger engine, a home-built Milano could be quite quick and sporty. After the success of the open-top Milano, the team wanted more. In 1962, they introduced the Milano GT, a version with a closed roof. This sleek coupe was designed specifically for a larger chassis and the popular Holden 6-cylinder motors. The Milano GT looked like a true European Grand Turismo sports car. It was low, slung, and curvy, with a long hood and tiny cockpit. Many say its design echoed famous Italian cars of the era. It certainly turned heads on Australian roads. Enthusiasts could buy just the body and build the car themselves, or a few were built completely by JWF. Because these cars were often built from kits and by hobbyists, each Milano GT was a little bit unique. Some had different engines or parts depending on what the builders could find. One Milano GT might have a Holden Gray inline-6 engine, while another might use a Ford engine, whatever made it go fast. All Milano GTs shared that distinctive look, though. A rounded nose, a tiny oval grille, a bubble-like roof, and a short tail with a pair of small round taillights. They were usually painted bright colors like red, green, or silver, just like exotic sports cars. Building and driving a Milano GT in the 1960s was an adventure. Owners often took them to racetracks and hill climbs on the weekends. JWF built a few works race cars, meaning factory-supported racers, based on the Milano GT. These cars competed in Australian, club races, and hill climb events in the mid-1960s. One famous Milano GT was raced by Bruce Lear. Another was driven by Sam Johnson himself, one of the founders. A private owner and racer named Dick Willis also built and raced his own Milano GT, even winning trophies in his class. The little company that started in a shed was now seeing its cars zoom around real tracks, challenging bigger and more established sports cars. The Milano's lightweight fiberglass body and decent power made it quite fast in a straight line. It was not uncommon to see a Milano special outrunning more expensive cars in local events. However, these were still essentially home-built cars. Keeping them running and handling well required skill and constant tinkering. Owners became part of a tight-knit community, sharing tips on how to improve the suspension, brakes, or cooling of their Milano GTs. By the late 1960s, JWF Fiberglass Industries had expanded its lineup to include another model, called the JWF Italia, a larger body for bigger cars. But the Milano remained their most popular creation. In total, over 300 JWF kits were produced from 1959 to 1969, including Milano Roadsters, Milano GT Coupes, and the Italia. That is quite impressive for a small, independent outfit. As for the Milano GT Coupe specifically, approximately 30 were built. Only about a dozen of those survive today in the whole world. That makes the surviving Milano GTs very rare and sought after by collectors. When a nicely restored Milano GT comes up for sale or auction, it causes a lot of excitement. These cars, once a fun budget project for young hot rodders, are now prized vintage automobiles. Many are now in the hands of enthusiasts who lovingly restore them to their former glory, often painting them in vintage racing colors and outfitting them with period-correct wheels and tires. One such example is a Milano GT that was purchased by an enthusiast named Mark Hinton in the 1990s. He raced it in historic events and later restored it for road use. Hinton's Milano GT was one of the few that managed to be registered for street driving. Many Milano kits were only used off-road or in competition. Only a handful of Milano GTs are road registered and running today, which shows how special they are. When Hinton's car was auctioned in 2020, it was expected to sell for a high price due to its rarity and the fondness people have for these homegrown sports cars. The story of the JWF Milano GT is a true underdog tale. 3 Aussie friends turned their passion into a reality and enabled others to build their dream sports cars. The Milano GT may not have the fame of a Ferrari, but it has something even better in the eyes of those who know it: a uniquely Australian spirit of ingenuity and adventure. Even today, if you attend a classic car show or a vintage race in Australia, you might spot a curvy little Milano GT, often painted in a striking color and wearing proudly the JWF badge. It features a red cross and a green serpent, similar to the coat of arms of Milan. It is a reminder that with creativity and determination, even a small team in a shed can create something that brings joy decades later. The Milano GT's legacy lives on in the garages and photo albums of enthusiasts, and its story continues to inspire those who dare to dream on a budget. After all, not every rare car has to come from a giant factory. Some are born in humble workshops, fueled by passion and a bit of Aussie can-do attitude. The 1980s brought us to the roaring world of motor racing. This rare Australian car is not a road car at all, but a pure race car, and a championship-winning one at that. It is called the Romano WE84, and it was the brainchild of a Queensland businessman and racer named Graham "Bap" Romano. In the early 1980s, Bap Romano had a dream to build an Australian race car that could compete with the kinds of sleek prototypes seen in the famous 24 Hours of Le Mans races. At the time, Australia had a racing series for sports cars called the Australian Sports Car Championship. Most cars in it were open-top or older designs. Bap wanted something new. A closed cockpit, Group A sports car, low to the ground, and very fast. BAP Romano was not an engineer, so he teamed up with a talented designer named Barry Locke. Barry was a former McLaren engineer. McLaren is a top Formula One racing team, originally from New Zealand, who had been building race cars in Australia under the name Cadice. Together, they set out in 1981 to create a car that would follow the rules and opportunities of Group A sports car racing, which at the time allowed quite a lot of technical freedom. Barry Locke designed and built the chassis, and the project was initially called the Cadice K583, with K5 for Cadice and 83 for 1983. When it first appeared in the 1983 Australian Sports Car Championship, it indeed looked like a baby Le Mans car. Low, wide, with a sharp aerodynamic body, and a cockpit covered by a smooth canopy. In fact, it was the first closed-top sports racing car ever seen in Australia's racing series, and it resembled the world-famous Porsche 956 Group C car in shape. People were amazed to see this futuristic white machine among the usual open-top racers. Underneath its fiberglass and Kevlar body, the Romano WE84 had serious racing hardware. The chassis was an aluminium monocoque, a type of single shell frame used in Formula One with advanced suspension. Most impressively, it was powered by a Cosworth V8 engine. Cosworth engines were legendary. They powered many Formula One cars in the 1970s and 80s. BAP's car initially used a 3.0-liter Cosworth DFV, the same type that had won multiple Formula One championships, producing well over 400 horsepower. Later, it was upgraded to a 3.9-liter Cosworth DFL, an endurance racing version of that engine for even more torque. Hearing this car on track was spectacular. The Cosworth V8 made a high-pitched, fierce roar. The WE in WE84 actually stands for Wayne Eckersley, who was Barry Locke's engineering partner on the project. 84 was the year it really came into its own. After sorting out some teething problems in 1983, the team, now running under BAP Romano Racing, entered the 1984 season with big hopes. And they delivered. In the 1984 Australian Sports Car Championship, BAP Romano and his WE84 dominated the competition. The sleek white car, often nicknamed the Spirit of Australia, as written on its nose, seemed almost unbeatable. BAP won 4 out of the 5 championship races that year. He took pole position in every round and set the fastest lap in every race he finished. The only race he did not win was the first round, where the WE84 was involved in a crash amid chaotic conditions. This performance earned BAP Romano the 1984 Drivers' Championship for Australian sports cars. It was a triumph for the small Queensland-based team. The Romano WE84 was proudly Australian designed and built, even if its engine came from England, and it was beating cars from more established makers. BAP's success with the car made headlines in racing circles. He even issued an open challenge to Australia's most famous race driver at the time, Peter Brock, a legend in touring car racing, to race against the WE84 and see who was faster. Perhaps wisely, Peter Brock did not accept the challenge, but the bold dare added to the car's mystique. Encouraged by their local success, BAP Romano and his team even took the WE84 to try competing in an international event, the 1984 Sandown 1000, which was a World Endurance Championship race held in Australia. There, the WE84 ran against famous international Group C cars. It showed good pace, but being a smaller team, they could not quite go the full distance. The car was not classified at the finish, due to not completing enough laps. Mechanical troubles saw to that. Despite that, just qualifying and running in a World Championship race was a big accomplishment for a home-built special. After 1984, the Australian Sports Car Championship's popularity waned, and by 1987, the series ended. The Romano WE84 continued to race in 1985 and 1986 in select events, but without a series to dominate, it mostly ran in club races or sat idle. Eventually, BAP Romano retired from active racing and kept the car. For a long time, the WE84 was out of the public eye. Then, in the 2000s, interest in classic racing cars grew and BAP Romano had the car restored. By 2010, the Romano WE84 roared back to life, updated with a slightly newer Cosworth engine, and BAP himself tested it on track again. Even decades later, the car was immensely fast. Spectators at historic race meetings were thrilled to see the Batmobile, as some called it, back in action. With its low white body and distinctive heart-shaped logos, a tribute to BAP's wife, whose nickname was painted on the car with hearts. If you ever see the Romano WE84 in person, it looks like a spaceship from the 1980s. It is wide and very low, with a huge rear wing and a long dorsal fin down the back for stability. The cockpit is tiny, just enough room for one driver with a helmet. The windshield is like a bubble, giving the driver just a slit to see out of. Everything about it screams speed. It truly brought Le Mans-style design to Australian shores, and importantly, it won. That makes the WE84 not just a rare car. Only one was ever built for racing, but a successful rare car. Many one-of-a-kind cars do not achieve much. The WE84 wrote its name in the record books. The Romano WE84's story is one of passion for racing. BAP Romano invested time and money because he loved motorsport and wanted to push the envelope. He proved that an Australian sports car could be as advanced as any in the world at that time. Today, the car is often demonstrated at classic racing events and is kept in excellent condition. It is a moving piece of Australian racing history. The story of the WE84 is as exciting as a comic book hero. A unique machine built in a small workshop takes on and beats the giants, then sleeps for years, only to return and amaze once more. It is the stuff of legend for Aussie motorsport enthusiasts. And if you listen closely at a racetrack revival event, you might hear the howl of that Cosworth V8 and know that the spirit of Australia lives on in the Romano WE84.